The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for nearly a kilometer in every direction. Ambassador Kenji Yamamoto stood at the center of it all, feeling very small. Above him, around him, and even below him through transparent floors, representatives from 47 different species watched. Some had eyes like his, others had sensors he could not even begin to understand. All of them were looking at him. Kenji adjusted his formal jacket and waited. He had practiced this moment for 2 years. Humanity had worked toward this moment for 50 years. Ever since the first alien ship had appeared over Tokyo. Now everything depended on what happened in the next few hours. The High Arbiter Qualin floated in the central position of honor. Her species, the Luminari, looked like jellyfish made of liquid light. She had been alive for over 600 years and had served on the council for 3 centuries. When she spoke, her words came through the translation device everyone wore. Ambassador Yamamoto of Earth, Klin said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. Humanity has formally requested full membership in the Galactic Council. We have reviewed your application. We have studied your world. We have observed your people. And we have discovered something deeply troubling. Kenji felt his stomach tighten. But he kept his face calm. Years, in the military, had taught him that much. A hologram appeared above the center of the hall. It showed Earth spinning slowly, beautiful and blue. But then data began to scroll beside it. Numbers and classifications in a dozen alien languages. Counselor Vexthra rose from her seat. She belonged to the Chitara, an insectoid species with 4 arms and a body covered in gleaming black chitin. Her species had been council members for over 1,000 years. When she spoke, her mandibles clicked together between words. The evidence is clear, Vexthra announced. Earth has been classified as a Class 13 Deathworld, the highest danger rating possible. This is not a matter of opinion. This is scientific fact. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Some species made sounds of alarm. Others shifted uneasily in their seats or pods or floating platforms. Kenji knew about the classification system. Every world was rated from Class 1 to Class 13, based on how dangerous it was to life. Class 1 worlds were paradise planets with gentle weather, calm tectonics, and peaceful evolution. Class 13 worlds were nightmares where everything had evolved to kill everything else. For those unfamiliar with Earth's specific dangers, Vexthra continued. Allow me to explain. Earth's gravity is 1.2 times galactic standard. For most species here, visiting Earth would feel like carrying a heavy weight on every part of their body at all times. Many of you would be crushed. Another hologram appeared showing a human walking easily, while alien figures collapsed under invisible weight. Earth's atmosphere contains 21% oxygen. Vexthra went on. For most galactic species, this is toxic. For some, it is combustible. Your air would poison us or make us explode. Earth's weather systems generate hurricanes with wind speeds over 300 kilometers per hour. Your planet has lightning storms that can vaporize organic matter. You have tornadoes that can level entire settlements. More images appeared. Hurricanes from space, lightning strikes, tornadoes tearing across plains. Earth's tectonic plates are highly active, Vexthra said. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions are common. Your planet's surface is constantly trying to kill everything on it. Earth has predators that can kill with a single bite. You have microscopic organisms that cause deadly diseases. Your own sun bombards you with dangerous radiation, and perhaps most terrifying of all, 80% of life on Earth exists specifically to consume other life. Your world is built on violence. The hall was silent now. Every being present was staring at the images of Earth's dangers. Kenji waited. He knew there was more coming. The Galactic Council has a universal law, High Arbiter Qualin said quietly. No species from a Class 13 world has ever been granted council membership. Such worlds are quarantined. Contact is forbidden. This law has been in place for over 2,000 years. Vexthra's voice grew harder. In all our history, we have discovered only 2 other species that evolved on Class 13 worlds. The first, the Vorkesh, were extinct before we found them. They destroyed themselves through constant warfare. They never learned cooperation. They died alone on their nightmare planet. Another image appeared, showing ruins on a dark world. The second species, the Drothek, were very much alive when we found them, Vexthra continued. They evolved as perfect predators. No empathy. No cooperation. No mercy. When our expedition made contact, the Drothek immediately attacked. They killed the entire diplomatic team. We were forced to quarantine their entire system. They remain there now, trapped, because they are too dangerous to exist among peaceful species. The image showed a star system surrounded by warning beacons. This is why the law exists, Vexthra said, turning to face Kenji directly. Species that survive. Class 13 worlds do not evolve to be peaceful. They evolve to be killers. They cannot help it. It is what their world made them. And humanity comes from such a world. Round. Kenji could feel thousands of eyes on him. He could sense the fear in the room. These were beings from gentle worlds, peaceful worlds, who had never had to fight for survival the way humans did every single day. Finally, he spoke. His voice was calm and steady. Everything Counselor Vexthra has said about Earth is true, Kenji said. My world is dangerous. It has killed billions of humans throughout our history. Our planet's environment is harsh by galactic standards. Our predators are deadly. Our diseases are numerous. Our weather can be catastrophic. He paused, looking around the vast hall. But I would ask the Council to consider one thing. Kenji continued. Humanity did not just survive Earth. We thrived there. We built civilizations. We created art and music and philosophy. We learned to work together because that was the only way to survive. And now we are here, requesting not to conquer or destroy, but to join, to cooperate, to be part of something larger than ourselves. Noble words, Vexthra said. But words are easy. The Drothek probably would have said the same things if they could speak. Your world made you into survivors. Ambassador, and survivors from Class 13 worlds are always dangerous. High Arbiter Quillin's light pulsed thoughtfully. The ambassador makes an interesting point, however. Humanity has not attacked us. They have been peaceful in all our interactions over the past 50 years. This is unusual. An exception does not break a rule, Vexthra insisted. The law exists for good reason. Perhaps, Quillin said. But I am curious. Ambassador Yamamoto, humanity must understand that this law has never been broken. No exception has ever been made. What makes you believe we should make one now? Kenji smiled slightly. It was not a threatening smile. It was the kind of smile someone gives when they know something others do not. Because, he said simply, you have never met anyone from Earth before. The council chamber fell silent again. I request permission to present humanity's case, Kenji said. To show you what Earth really made us. Not monsters, not predators. Something else entirely. High Arbiter Quillin considered this for a long moment. Her light pulsed in patterns Kenji could not read. Very well, she said finally. The council will hear your case, Ambassador. But understand this. If you cannot convince us that humanity is safe, Earth will be quarantined. Forever. No exceptions, Kenji nodded. I understand, High Arbiter, and I accept those terms. As the council session ended and beings began to file out, Kenji stood alone in the center of the great hall. He looked up at the image of Earth still rotating above him. His home, his dangerous, beautiful, terrible, wonderful home. He had 3 days to save it. The second day of hearings began with Kenji standing once again in the center of the council hall. This time, he was not alone. Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside him, along with 3 other humans. They all wore simple uniforms that showed they represented Earth, but they looked ordinary. That was exactly what Kenji wanted. Counselors, Kenji began. Yesterday, you showed us what Earth is. Today, I want to show you what Earth made us. High Arbiter Quilin's light pulsed with interest. Proceed, Ambassador. A hologram appeared. But this time it was controlled by Dr. Chen. She was a xenobiologist who had spent the last 20 years studying how different species adapted to their worlds. She smiled at the assembled council, completely unafraid despite facing the most powerful beings in 3 galaxies. Earth's dangers forced humanity to evolve advantages, Sarah said. Let me show you what I mean. This is a comparison of immune systems across 20 different species. Charts appeared in the air. Even to Kenji's eyes, the difference was obvious. Human immune systems were like fortresses compared to the simpler defenses of other species. Humans are attacked by billions of hostile microorganisms from birth, Sarah explained. Our immune systems had to become incredibly sophisticated just to keep us alive. We carry antibodies against thousands of diseases. Our bodies remember every infection and build defenses. Most species here would die from a simple earth-cold virus, but human children catch dozens of illnesses and survive them all. Vexthra's mandibles clicked skeptically. So, humans carry diseases. This makes them more dangerous, not less. Actually, it makes us ideal doctors, Sarah responded. Human medicine had to advance quickly because Earth kept trying to kill us. We have treatments for conditions your species has never encountered. Our understanding of cellular biology is centuries ahead because we needed it to survive. She gestured, and the hologram changed to show healing rates. Humans also heal remarkably fast. A wound that would take a Chitara 60 days to heal takes a human 10 to 15 days. We can recover from blood loss that would kill most species. We can survive with damaged organs because we have redundant systems. Earth made us tough. A counselor from the Velen species raised a tentacle. The Velens were peaceful aquatic beings who looked like graceful ribbons of colored flesh. Dr. Chen, this is fascinating, but it sounds frightening. You are describing a species that is difficult to kill. Own 4. Sarah nodded. That's true. But consider why. Earth didn't make us predators. It made us survivors. There's a difference. Predators evolve to kill efficiently. Survivors evolve to endure and adapt. She brought up another image. This one showed a human running. This is called persistence hunting, Sarah said. It's how our ancestors hunted on Earth. We didn't have claws or fangs or venom. We weren't the fastest or the strongest. But we could run for hours, days, even. We would track prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then, we would approach carefully, respectfully, and take only what we needed. This proves my point, Vexthra interrupted. You are describing pursuit predators. This is exactly what makes Class 13 species dangerous. Kenji stepped forward. With respect, Counselor, you're missing the key detail. Humans didn't hunt alone. We hunted in groups. We cooperated. We shared the food. We took care of our injured. We told stories around fires at night. Earth's dangers didn't make us solitary killers. They made us social survivors. He nodded to one of the other humans present. Her name was Maria Santos, and she was a maintenance engineer on the human ship in orbit. She looked nervous, but determined. Maria, Kenji said gently, would you mind helping with the demonstration? Maria walked to a cargo container at the edge of the hall. It was a standard council design, meant to be moved by small anti-gravity sleds or by 3 to 4 adult Chitara working together. Maria bent down, gripped the handles, and lifted it. Easily. She carried it 10 meters and set it down without any sign of strain. The council chamber erupted in shocked sounds. Clicks, whistles, chimes, and noises Kenji had no name for. The container weighs 200 kilograms by galactic standard measure, Sarah said calmly. In Earth gravity, it would weigh 240 kilograms. Maria can lift it because she grew up in 1.2 times galactic gravity. Every human has this strength relative to other species. We don't think of it as special. It's just normal for us. Vexthra leaned forward. This is deeply concerning. You are showing us that humans are physically superior to council species. We're showing you that we're different, Kenji corrected. Not superior. Different. Yes. Humans are physically strong, by galactic standards. Yes, we can endure conditions that would kill others. But we didn't develop these abilities to conquer. We developed them to survive our own planet. Another hologram appeared. This one showed a graph that made several counselors gasp. It displayed pain tolerance across species. Humans have extremely high pain tolerance, Sarah said. Earth injuries are severe. Broken bones. Deep cuts. Burns. Stings from venomous creatures. We evolved to keep functioning even when injured, because stopping meant death. A human can continue complex tasks with injuries that would incapacitate most species here. A small counselor from the Pixith species, beings that looked like floating geometric crystals, spoke in a high-pitched voice. You describe humans as nearly indestructible. How is the council supposed to feel safe if you can survive anything and feel no pain? Kenji smiled. But this time, there was sadness in it. Oh, we feel pain. Counselor, we feel it very much. We just learned to work through it. Earth taught us that survival sometimes hurts. He gestured to the final human present. An older man named James Wright. James had gray hair and kind eyes. He was a psychologist. 40, and a 4, and a 40. James, tell them about the fear response, Kenji said. James stepped forward, comfortable despite the enormous audience. Humans have what we call a fight or flight response. When threatened, our bodies flood with adrenaline. Our heart rate increases. Our strength temporarily increases. Our perception of time changes. We become faster, stronger, and more focused. This sounds like a berserker rage, Vexthra said. Like the Drothek. Not quite, James replied. The response gives us two options. Fight or flight. Flee or defend. Humans can choose. The Drothek could only attack. That's crucial. Earth made us capable of violence, yes, but it also made us capable of running away, of finding creative solutions, of negotiating and compromising. We have the capacity for aggression, but also the wisdom to avoid it when possible. Sarah took over again. Let me show you something else. Earth gave us empathy. Arhires. 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 Empathy. Arhires. 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 Arhi. The hologram changed to show Earth's biodiversity. Millions of species. Insects. Fish. Birds. Mammals. Reptiles. Plants. Fungi. An overwhelming cascade of life. Earth didn't evolve one dominant predator, Sarah said. It evolved millions of species competing and cooperating simultaneously. Humans had to understand other species to survive. We had to know which plants were safe to eat, which animals were dangerous, how to read animal behavior to predict threats or find food. We became experts at understanding non-human intelligence. She smiled at the assembled council. That's why we're good at diplomacy. We've been reading non-human minds for hundreds of thousands of years. Earth taught us that survival meant understanding others, even others completely different from us. Kenji watched the council members carefully. He could see uncertainty replacing fear in some of them. Others still looked skeptical. You're telling us that Earth made humans strong, resilient, intelligent, and empathetic. High Arbiter Quellen said slowly. This seems too convenient, Ambassador. It's not convenient, Kenji replied. It's costly. Humans die young by galactic standards. Our bodies wear out quickly because they work so hard. We carry trauma from our harsh world. We struggle with violence in our own societies because we have the capacity for it. Earth's gifts came with a terrible price. He paused, letting that sink in. But we learned to pay that price together, he continued. We learned that cooperation was stronger than competition. We learned that taking care of the weak made us all stronger. We learned that the best way to survive Earth was to stop fighting each other and start working together. Vex Thra stood. These are beautiful words, Ambassador. But the Council needs more than words. We need proof that humans can control their violent capabilities, that you won't become a threat. Bye. High Arbiter Quillen's light pulsed thoughtfully. Counselor Vex Thra is correct. The evidence you present is compelling, but it is theoretical. We need to see humans in action. Kenji had been waiting for this. He had hoped for this. Then give us a test, he said simply. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. The council chamber filled with discussion, beings conferring with their own species delegations, arguments in dozens of languages. Finally, Quillen called for silence. Very well, she said. A test will be arranged. But be warned, Ambassador. If humanity fails, the quarantine will be immediate and permanent. Are you willing to accept this risk? Kenji looked at Sarah, Maria, James, and the other humans. We accept, Kenji said. Deep down, he felt fear. But Earth had taught him to work through fear. That was the human way. The emergency beacon came from the Broken Reach, a region of space near a dying nebula where the Council maintained a research station. Lieutenant Marcus Webb received the alert on his personal device at 3 a.m, ship time. He was dressed and moving before his feet hit the floor. By the time he reached the briefing room, his entire team was already there. 12 humans, the best rapid response unit Earth had. They stood at attention, faces serious. They knew what an emergency beacon meant. Ambassador Yamamoto appeared on the screen, looking tired. Behind him, Kenji could see the council chambers, still filled with arguing officials. Marcus, Kenji said, this is the test. The Skarath have attacked Research Station 47. 200 civilians are trapped inside, including families with children, 12 different species. The council peacekeepers are pinned down and taking casualties. The Skarath are from a Class 11 world. They're extremely dangerous. Marcus nodded, his face calm. What are the mission parameters? Reach the station. Extract all civilians. Try to avoid killing if possible, but protect the innocents first. Kenji paused. Marcus, the entire council is watching. This is everything. If you succeed, humanity gets membership. If you fail, Earth gets quarantined forever. No pressure then, Marcus said with a slight smile. We'll get it done. Ambassador. Kenji's expression softened just a bit. I know you will. Be careful. The screen went dark. Marcus turned to his team. Jessica Torres, his lead medic. David Kim, his engineer. Rachel Okonkwo, his second in command. 9 others, each one trained for exactly this kind of situation. You heard the man, Marcus said. We've got civilians in danger and the whole galaxy watching. Let's show them what humans can do. The trip to the Broken Reach took 6 hours at maximum speed. During that time, Marcus studied everything about the Skarath. They were silicon-based life forms, meaning their bodies were built around silicon instead of carbon like most species. They evolved on a high-gravity world with a corrosive atmosphere. They were strong, tough, and aggressive. They had rejected the Council years ago and now operated as raiders, taking what they wanted from weaker species. When the human ship approached the station, Marcus could see the damage immediately. Sections of the hull were breached. Emergency lights flickered. 3 Council peacekeepers' ships floated nearby, but they were damaged and maintaining distance. The Skarath ship, a massive, ugly thing covered in armor, was attached to the station like a parasite. Marcus opened a channel to the peacekeepers. The commander, a villain named Flow Through Depths, appeared on screen. He looked exhausted and frightened. "Human vessel," Flow said. "You should not be here. The Skarath are too dangerous. We have lost 17 peacekeepers already. We are waiting for a full military response." "With respect, Commander," Marcus replied. "Those civilians don't have time to wait. We're going in." "You are only 12, Flow said, almost pleading. "The Skarath have at least 40 raiders on that station. They are trained warriors from a Deathworld. Your species is untested in combat against such foes." Marcus smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something the other person did not. "Commander," he said gently, "Earth is a Class 13 Deathworld. The Skarath are from a Class 11. We've been training in worse conditions our entire lives." Before Flo could respond, Marcus cut the channel. "All right, team. We're going loud. Heavy armor. Non-lethal. Where possible. Lethal, if necessary. Priority is civilian safety. Let's move." The human team suited up in armor designed for Earth's gravity, which made it incredibly heavy by galactic standards. They carried weapons that other species needed mounting systems to use. As they prepared to breach the station, Marcus felt the familiar calm that came before action. Earth had taught humans to function under stress. It was just another day surviving a dangerous environment. They breached through a damaged airlock on the station's lower level. The interior was dark, except for emergency lights. The gravity was set to 0.8 galactic standard, which meant it felt light to the humans. They moved quickly, smoothly, like they were floating. The first group of Skarath appeared around a corner. They were massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with bodies that looked like rough stone. They carried heavy weapons and roared when they saw the humans. The sound was meant to terrify. It probably worked on most species. Marcus and his team didn't even flinch. The fight was over in seconds. The humans moved with a speed that shocked the Skarath. Rachel hit the first raider with a stun round that would have knocked out a normal being. The Skarath staggered, but stayed standing. David followed up with 3 more shots, and the raider finally collapsed. The others went down similarly, overwhelmed by the humans' coordinated assault. "They're tougher than the briefing suggested," Rachel said calmly. "Adjust accordingly," Marcus replied. "Move forward." They found the first group of civilians 3 levels up, huddled in a sealed laboratory. 8 researchers from different species, including 2 Chitara scientists and a Pixith engineer. They looked terrified. When the door opened and humans in armor appeared, they initially looked more afraid. "We're here to help," Marcus said, his voice calm through his helmet speaker. "Stay close to us. We're getting you out." Jessica checked each civilian for injuries while the others maintained security. One of the Chitara had a broken arm. Another civilian, a being Marcus didn't recognize, was having trouble breathing. "David, get this door reinforced behind us," Marcus ordered. "Jessica, can they move?" "With support." "Yes," Jessica replied, already helping the injured ones. They began moving the civilians toward extraction. The station's layout was complex, designed for multiple species with different environmental needs. The humans navigated it quickly, their enhanced pattern recognition allowing them to build a mental map as they moved. They encountered another group of Skarath raiders. This group was larger and ready for a fight. The corridor erupted in weapons fire. The humans positioned themselves between the raiders and the civilians, using their own bodies as shields. The armor took hits that would have punched through most species' protective gear. The humans barely slowed down. Marcus and Rachel flanked the Skarath position, while David and 2 others laid down suppression fire. The Skarath were good fighters, but they were used to opponents who broke under pressure. Humans didn't break. The raiders fell back, confused by this species that wouldn't retreat. "They're not fighting like civilians," one Skarath leader growled to another. his words translated by the station's systems. "What are these creatures?" "Clattermand, one Skarath. Clattermand disease." Marcus heard it and smiled grimly. "We're from Earth," he said over the open channel. "And we're here for the civilians you trapped." The extraction continued. The human team found more civilians scattered throughout the station. Each time, they protected them, stabilized the injured, and moved them toward safety. Jessica worked miracles with her medical kit, treating species with completely different biologies using principles adapted from Earth's incredible diversity of life. Then they reached the central hub, where the main group of civilians was trapped. Marcus could see them through a viewport. Over 100 beings of different species, including small ones that must have been children. They were surrounded by 20 Skarath raiders, and the situation was tense. "They're using them as hostages," Rachel observed. Marcus studied the layout. "David, can you create a distraction?" The engineer grinned. "Can I ever?" What happened next would later become famous across the galaxy. David rigged the station's environmental systems to create a localized electrical surge. The lights went out. In the darkness, the Skarath raiders panicked. They couldn't see well without light. But humans could. Earth's predator heritage gave them excellent low-light vision. The human team moved through the darkness like ghosts. They disabled Skarath raiders with precision strikes, always careful to avoid hitting the civilians. When one section of ceiling began to collapse from battle damage, Marcus and 2 others simply caught it and held it up while civilians scrambled to safety beneath. The weight should have been impossible to lift. For humans, it was just another burden to bear. The turning point came when a support beam collapsed completely, trapping 3 peacekeepers and 5 civilians. The rubble weighed tons. The Skarath moved in to finish off the trapped victims. Marcus and his team got there first. What the watching council saw through station cameras would change everything. 4 humans, working together, lifted debris that should have required heavy machinery. They held it up, muscles straining, faces set with determination, while Jessica and the others pulled the wounded free. It took 3 minutes. The humans held the weight for every second of it. When the last civilian was clear, Marcus and his team let the rubble fall and immediately moved to the next crisis. No celebration, no pause. Just professional humans doing an impossible job and making it look routine. By the time reinforcements arrived, the human team had extracted all 200 civilians. They had disabled 37 Skarath raiders, killing only 3 when absolutely necessary to protect innocents. The humans had taken injuries that would have incapacitated other species, but they kept moving, kept working, until everyone was safe. Marcus stood in the extraction shuttle, surrounded by grateful civilians from a dozen species. He was bleeding from a gash on his arm. His armor was dented. He was exhausted, but he smiled when Ambassador Yamamoto appeared on the screen. "Mission complete, Ambassador," Marcus said simply. "All civilians safe. Minimal enemy casualties. The station is secure." Kenji's face showed relief and pride. "The council watched everything, Marcus. Every second. You showed them exactly what I hoped you would." "What's that?" Marcus asked. "That humans are dangerous when they need to be," Kenji replied. "But they choose to protect instead of destroy. That's the difference Earth made." Marcus looked at the civilians around him. Children from species he'd never met before, clinging to parents they thought they'd lost. Scientists whose research might save millions. Ordinary beings who just wanted to live in peace. "We're not special, Ambassador," Marcus said quietly. "We're just doing what anyone from Earth would do. We survived hell. We learned to help each other through it. That's all." But as the shuttle carried them away from the broken reach, Marcus knew it was more than that. It was everything. The news of the Broken Reach rescue spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, footage of humans lifting impossible weights to save civilians was being broadcast across thousands of worlds. Within days, public opinion had shifted dramatically. Species that had never heard of Earth were now calling for humanity's acceptance into the Council. Ambassador Kenji Yamamoto should have been celebrating. Instead, he stood in his quarters watching the news with a growing sense of unease. He had learned long ago that success often created more enemies than failure. He was right to worry. On the morning of the fourth day, Councillor Vexthra called for an emergency session. When Kenji entered the council chamber, the atmosphere was different. Colder, more hostile. He could feel it immediately. Ambassador Yamamoto. Vexthra began without preamble. The Broken Reach incident was indeed impressive. However, my research team has been investigating humanity's history more thoroughly. What we have discovered is deeply troubling. A hologram appeared above the center of the chamber. It showed Earth. But this time the images were not of natural disasters. They were of human-made horrors. Armies marching. Cities burning. Weapons of mass destruction exploding. The mushroom clouds of nuclear weapons blooming like deadly flowers. This is your species' true history, Vexthra said, her voice sharp. Humans did not just survive Earth's natural dangers. You created new dangers yourselves. Your history is filled with wars, genocides, mass murder, on scales that shock the civilized mind. More images appeared. Ancient battles, medieval conquests, modern warfare. The numbers of dead scrolled beside each image. Millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. World War I, Vexthra continued. 20 million dead. World War II, 85 million dead. The Taiping Rebellion, 30 million. On and on, throughout your entire history. Humanity has been killing itself for thousands of years. Kenji felt the weight of every eye in the chamber on him. He saw fear, returning to faces that had just begun to show acceptance. You speak of cooperation, Vexthra said. But your own history proves you are violent by nature, not just by adaptation. You built nuclear weapons capable of destroying your own planet. You poisoned your own environment. You committed atrocities against your own species based on trivial differences in appearance or belief. The images kept coming. Concentration camps, slave ships, genocides, each one a scar on humanity's story. A small counselor from the Pixith species spoke up. How can we trust a species that would do this to itself? If humans are willing to kill other humans so readily, what would they do to alien species? Vexthra seized on this. Exactly. The Broken Reach rescue was impressive. Yes, but it could simply be a performance. A way to gain our trust before revealing their true nature. The Drothek were also capable of cooperation among their own kind. They simply saw all other species as prey. Kenji stood in the center of it all, watching his species' darkest moments displayed for the galaxy to judge. He could have denied it. He could have made excuses. He could have tried to minimize the horror. Instead, he surprised everyone. You're absolutely right, Kenji said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Everything you've shown is true, Kenji continued, his voice steady. We have killed each other over land, resources, religion, ideology, and sometimes for no reason at all beyond hatred and fear. We have been cruel, violent, and destructive. We built weapons capable of ending all life on our planet and came terrifyingly close to using them. We poisoned our own air and water. We drove species to extinction. We enslaved our own people. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. We did all of that, he said, and we are deeply ashamed of it. Vexthra's mandibles clicked in confusion. You admit it? Of course I admit it, Kenji replied. How could I deny it? It's our history. It's part of who we are. But here's what I want you to understand, counselor. Every species in this chamber has darkness in their past. He gestured around the hall. The Velen had the separation wars 3,000 years ago. The Luminari went through a period called the Dimming, where different light frequencies tried to extinguish each other. Even the Chitara, so law-abiding now, have records of hive conflicts that killed millions. Every species that reached the stars had to go through a difficult adolescence. But none of those species came from Class 13 Deathworlds, Vexthra countered. Exactly, Kenji said. You all learned these lessons on gentle worlds where survival was relatively easy. You had the luxury of time to develop peacefully. Earth didn't give us that luxury. Our world was trying to kill us every single day. The pressure was constant. The stress was overwhelming. And yes, it sometimes broke us. He walked slowly as he spoke, his voice growing more passionate. But here's what Earth also taught us, Kenji continued. It taught us the true cost of violence. When you live on a world that's already trying to kill you, you learn quickly that fighting each other is suicide. Every war on Earth cost us terribly. Every conflict weakened us against our real enemy, our own planet. We learned through pain and loss that cooperation wasn't just morally right. It was the only way to survive. Dr. Sarah Chen appeared beside him, having been waiting in the wings. She looked at the assembled council, with sadness in her eyes. I lost my grandfather in the resource wars, Sarah said quietly. My grandmother in the climate crisis. I know personally what human violence costs, but I also know what we learned from it. After every terrible war, humanity came together a little more. After every genocide, we strengthened our laws against such atrocities. After we nearly destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons, we built treaties and safeguards. We learned. Ober too. Words. Vexthra said dismissively. The past is past. How do we know you won't revert to violence when stressed or threatened? Because we exist in a constant state of stress and threat, Kenji replied. Earth never stopped being dangerous. We're still fighting hurricanes and earthquakes and diseases every single day. We could have turned on each other. Instead, we built a unified global government. We ended war among ourselves. We chose peace. Not because it was easy, but because we finally understood it was necessary. High Arbiter Qualin spoke for the first time. The ambassador makes compelling points. However, Councillor Vexthra's concerns are valid. How can we be certain humanity has truly changed? Before Kenji could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed. Automated voices announced a security breach. Explosion in the human quarters, a security officer reported. Multiple casualties reported. Kenji's blood ran cold. What? The hologram shifted to show the human section of the station. Smoke poured from one of the residential modules. Emergency crews were rushing to the scene. The feed showed bodies being pulled from the wreckage. 3 humans confirmed dead, the security officer continued. 12 wounded, 3 critically. Evidence suggests an explosive device. The council chamber erupted in shocked sounds. Kenji stood frozen, his mind racing. 3 dead. His people. Under his protection. Within minutes, investigation teams identified the perpetrators. A radical group from a species that feared human inclusion. They had planted the bomb to prove humans were dangerous, to trigger a violent response that would justify the quarantine. Kenji watched the names of the dead appear on screens. Young people. Diplomats. Scientists. People who had come to the stars with hope and died in hatred's shadow. He felt something dark rising inside him. Anger. Rage. The part of him that was from Earth, from a world that taught you to survive by fighting back. His hands clenched into fists. The entire council was watching him, waiting to see what the human would do, waiting to see if he would prove Vexthra right. Kenji took a deep breath. Then another. He thought about his own family, lost in Earth's last great war. He thought about everything humanity had learned, all the pain that had taught them to choose peace. When he spoke, his voice was steady. I want the perpetrators arrested and tried according to council law, Kenji said. I want justice, not revenge. I want the legal system to work as it should. We will not retaliate. We will not respond with violence. We will grieve our dead, treat our wounded, and continue our mission here. The silence in the chamber was absolute. You have just lost 3 of your people, Vexthra said, sounding genuinely confused. Killed by those who oppose you, and you will not strike back? No, Kenji said firmly. Because that's exactly what they want. They want to prove we're violent. They want us to fail. But we won't give them that satisfaction. Humanity learned the hard way that revenge only creates more victims. The cycle has to stop somewhere. It might as well stop with us. Dr. Chen stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Those were my friends, she said, her voice breaking. I worked with them every day. I laughed with them, and now they're gone. And yes, part of me wants to hurt someone for it. That's the part that's from Earth, from surviving a death world. But the other part, the part that makes us human, knows that violence only creates more pain. She looked directly at Vexthra. You wanted to know if we've really changed? This is how you know. We have every reason to be angry, every justification for violence, and we're choosing peace anyway. Not because we're weak, we've proven we're not weak, but because we've learned that being strong means having the power to hurt someone and choosing not to. The council sat in stunned silence. Outside the chamber, human emergency responders were helping treat the wounded, working alongside alien doctors. Human engineers were already repairing the damage. Human security personnel were cooperating with council investigators, providing evidence, following procedures. They were doing everything right. Everything peaceful. Everything civilized. Despite the provocation, despite the pain, despite every instinct their Deathworld heritage had given them. High Arbiter Quellin's light pulsed in a pattern Kenji had learned meant deep thought. This is unprecedented, she said softly. A species from a Class 13 world, attacked unprovoked, responding with restraint and law rather than violence. It's not unprecedented for humans, Kenji said quietly. It's just who we've become. Earth taught us violence, but we taught ourselves peace. That's the difference between us and the Drothek. That's why we're the exception. As he stood there, surrounded by aliens judging his species, Kenji realized something. The test wasn't the broken reach. That was just physical capability. This was the real test. Could humans control their violent potential, even when hurt, even when justified? They were about to find out if the answer was enough. The final session of the council began 5 days after the bombing. In that time, something remarkable had happened. The humans had not only refrained from violence, they had actively reached out to the communities of the species whose members had attacked them. They had offered understanding instead of blame. They had shared their grief rather than weaponizing it. Kenji stood once again in the center of the council chamber. But he was not alone. Beside him stood Marcus and his rescue team, Dr. Sarah Chen and her research staff, Jessica Torres, still bandaged from wounds she had received treating victims at the Broken Reach, and 3 empty spaces where the dead should have been standing. High Arbiter Quellin's light was subdued, respectful of the loss. When she spoke, her voice carried a weight it had not held before. This council has existed for over 2,000 years, she began. In that time, we have encountered thousands of species. We have welcomed hundreds into our fellowship, and we have made one absolute rule. No species from a Class 13 death world shall ever join us. This law has never been broken. Until now, we have never had reason to question it. She paused, her light pulsing slowly. But before we vote, I wish to share something my research team discovered. Something that may explain why humanity is different. A hologram appeared, showing 3 planets. One was dark and dead. One was covered in predators. And one was Earth, blue and green, and teeming with life. The Vorkesh, the Drothek, and humanity, Quillin continued. 3 species from 3 Class 13 worlds. My team analyzed what made each world reach that classification. The Vorkesh world was barren, with few resources and constant natural disasters. Species there evolved in isolation, competing for scraps. The Vorkesh never learned cooperation because their world offered nothing to cooperate over. The hologram shifted to the second world, dark and hostile. The Drothek world was dominated by a single type of predator ecology. Everything evolved to hunt or be hunted. There was no diversity, no complex web of life. The Drothek became perfect predators because that was the only survival strategy their world offered. Then the hologram focused on Earth, and the image was breathtaking. Forests and oceans, deserts and tundras, mountains and plains. Millions of species in a complex dance of survival and cooperation. Earth, Quillin said softly, is unique among Class 13 worlds. It is not just dangerous. It is abundantly, incredibly diverse. Humans did not evolve in isolation or as singular apex predators. They evolved in a world where they had to understand and interact with thousands of other species, where survival meant learning which plants could heal and which could kill, where cooperation with other species, like wolves or horses, provided advantages, where understanding the weather, the seasons, the rhythms of nature was essential. Dr. Chen stepped forward. High Arbiter. Klin gestörter Consent. Earth didn't just make us tough, Sarah said, addressing the entire council. It made us adaptable. We lived in every climate on the planet, from frozen Arctic to scorching desert, from sea level to high mountains. No other species spread across such varied environments. We had to learn flexibility. We had to learn that different situations required different approaches. That's why we can cooperate with species completely different from ourselves. We've been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. A counselor from a species Kenji didn't recognize spoke up. But you also learned violence from your world. How can we trust that you will not use it against us? Marcus stepped forward. The combat veteran looked uncomfortable addressing the council, but his voice was steady. I'm a soldier, he said simply. I've been trained to fight since I was 18 years old. I'm good at it. Earth made humans good at violence when we need to be. But here's the thing nobody seems to understand. Being capable of violence isn't the same as being violent. He gestured to his team, still bearing the marks of their rescue mission. We went into the Broken Reach with full authorization to use lethal force, Marcus continued. We faced 40 Scareth raiders. We could have killed them all. It would have been easier, actually, faster, safer for us. But we didn't. We disabled them. We captured them. We used minimal force, not because we're weak, but because we know the difference between necessary violence and unnecessary violence. Earth taught us when to fight, but we taught ourselves when not to. Counselor Vex Thra had been silent throughout the session, but now she stood. Kenji braced himself for another objection. Instead, Vex Thra surprised everyone. I was wrong, she said quietly. The chamber went still. I have spent the last days reviewing all the evidence, Vex Thra continued. I watched humans respond to the bombing with grace and restraint. I saw them grieve their dead, without seeking revenge. I reviewed recordings of the Broken Reach rescue, and saw soldiers showing mercy when none would have been expected. I spoke with the civilians they saved, including members of my own species. She turned to face Kenji directly. One of the scientists rescued from the Broken Reach is my cousin's daughter. She told me what it was like. She said the humans moved through darkness and danger, like they were walking through a garden. She said they put themselves between the raiders and the civilians without hesitation. She said when that ceiling collapsed, she thought she would die. But 4 humans held up tons of rubble until everyone was safe. She said they looked like they were in pain, but they never stopped. They never let go. Vexthra's voice grew softer. She asked me something that I could not answer. She said, "Ant, what kind of species becomes strong enough to destroy everything, but chooses to protect instead?" I did not know what to tell her. Kenji felt his throat tighten. He had not expected this. "I was afraid of humans," Vexthra admitted. "I am still afraid, if I am honest. But I realize now, I was afraid of the wrong thing. I was afraid of your capacity for violence. I should have been paying attention to your capacity for choice. The Vorkesh could not choose cooperation. The Drothek could not choose peace. But humans can. And do. That is what makes you different." She returned to her seat, and Kenji saw something he had not seen before. Respect. High Arbiter Quillin's light grew brighter. The question before this council is simple, yet profound. Do we maintain our absolute law? Or do we acknowledge that rules, no matter how ancient, must bend when faced with exceptional circumstances? A young counselor from the species that had produced the bombers stood. He looked ashamed. "High Arbiter, my species owes humanity an apology. The attack was wrong. It was based on fear and ignorance. But I want to say something else. In the days since the bombing, humans have visited our communities. They have not blamed us for the actions of a few extremists. They have instead shared their own history of terrorism and extremism. They talked about how they learned to separate the actions of individuals from the character of entire groups. They showed us compassion when we deserved condemnation." He turned to Kenji. "Ambassador, your people are better than we are. We should be learning from you, not judging you." More counselors began to speak. Some shared observations. Others asked questions. But Kenji could feel the mood in the chamber shifting. Something fundamental was changing. Finally, High Arbiter Quillin called for order. "The time has come to vote," she announced. "The question before the council is this: shall humanity be granted membership despite their origin on a Class 13 Deathworld, breaking 2,000 years of precedent? This decision will require a 2/3 majority to pass." The voting began. Each counselor indicated their choice through their species' preferred method. Lights, sounds, gestures. The holographic tally began to climb. Kenji watched the numbers, barely breathing. Sarah gripped his hand. Marcus stood at attention, face unreadable. The voting seemed to take forever, and no time at all. When it ended, High Arbiter Quillin's light flared brilliantly. "The motion passes," she announced. "By a majority of 68%, humanity is granted membership in the Galactic Council, with the following conditions. Human military forces will be limited for a period of 50 years. Humanity will establish cultural exchange programs with all member species. Human, medical, and rescue teams will be made available to assist council members in need. These conditions are designed not to restrict humanity, but to allow us to learn from each other." The chamber erupted in sounds of approval from most species, though a few remained silent. Kenji felt tears streaming down his face. Beside him, Sarah was openly crying. Marcus maintained his composure, but Kenji saw the man's hands shaking. "Ambassador Yamamoto," Quillin said, "do you accept these conditions on behalf of humanity?" Kenji stepped forward. "High Arbiter, we not only accept these conditions, we welcome them. Humanity did not come to the stars to stand apart. We came to be part of something larger than ourselves. We came to learn and grow and contribute. These conditions will help us do exactly that." "Then welcome, humanity, to the Galactic Council," Quillin said. "May your presence here benefit all species." As the session ended and beings began to file out, many stopped to congratulate the human delegation. Some were enthusiastic. Others were cautious, but polite. A few still looked fearful. But even they were willing to give humanity a chance. Counselor Vexthra approached Kenji privately. "I want you to know something," she said. "I will be watching your species carefully. Not because I believe you will fail, but because I believe you will succeed. And when you do, it will change everything we thought we knew about Deathworlds and the species they produce." Kenji smiled. "That's all we ask, Counselor. A chance to prove ourselves. You already have." Vexthra replied. "Now comes the harder part. Living up to the example you've set. 5 years passed. In that time, human medical teams revolutionized galactic healthcare. Techniques developed for Earth's diverse biology proved adaptable to dozens of alien species. Human doctors saved millions of lives. Human rescue teams became legendary. When disasters struck, humans were the first called. Their ability to function in hostile environments, to endure conditions that would kill others, made them invaluable. They never said no. Human engineers solved problems that had plagued the Council for centuries. Their ability to think creatively, to adapt on the fly, to work with limited resources came from growing up on a world that constantly challenged them. And perhaps most surprisingly, human optimism became something the galaxy valued. There was a saying that spread across countless worlds. If you want to know if something is possible, ask a scientist. If you want to know if something impossible is worth trying anyway, ask a human. Earth remained a Class 13 death world. That classification never changed because it was accurate. Earth was dangerous. But humanity had learned to carry that danger without being consumed by it. They had learned to be strong without being cruel. They had learned to survive without losing their compassion. On the 5th anniversary of humanity's acceptance, Kenji stood once again in the council chamber. But this time, he was not alone on the floor. 12 human ambassadors now represented Earth across the council's various committees. Human advisors worked alongside alien colleagues in countless capacities. Vexthra approached him, her mandibles clicking in what Kenji had learned was a Chitara smile. "Do you remember what I said 5 years ago, Ambassador?" she asked. "You said we would change everything," Kenji replied. "I was wrong," Vexthra said. "You did not change everything. You changed something more important. You changed what we believe is possible. 3 other Class 13 worlds have been discovered since humanity joined. In the past, we would have simply quarantined them. Now, we study them. We look for diversity, for cooperation, for signs of species that might be like you. You opened a door we did not know existed." Kenji looked out at the vast council chamber, at the beings from dozens of worlds working together, and he thought about Earth, his dangerous, beautiful, terrible, wonderful home. "Earth made us strong," he said quietly. "But we made ourselves kind. That's the exception, Counselor. Not that we survived a death world. That we learned to help others survive theirs." Vexthra's mandibles clicked again. "And that, Ambassador, is why every Class 13 death world was forbidden. Until Earth. Until humanity. Until you showed us that the most dangerous environments can produce not just survivors, but protectors." Above them, a hologram of Earth rotated slowly, blue and green and perfect. A Class 13 death world. A forbidden planet. And now, a beacon of hope for the entire galaxy. The exception that proved the rule was wrong all along.